So we'll start this last session. We're going to talk today. Last two times we've talked about just the basics of running reports and then basic modification, doing things like um, aligning things, adding things like images or lines or fields, lining them up, um, etc. Today we're going to talk more about report expressions, using functions, etc. in your expressions to get data on there like you need. And so we're going to switch over student manager. I'm going to start this time in a name roster. And I'll just start with the default report. I'm going to run it for a group of courses. And we're in my modify screen. Before I go on, can everybody see that okay?
Looks good to me.
Great. All right. So we're going to start here. This is a function called namer. So you can use report functions, and we have several of them that you can use to do something with your data. Now we're on a name roster, and namer kind of sounds like what it does. It does something to the person's name. And so I'm going to pull up help too. Help center. I'm going to go down here to where all the report functions are. We're going to look up name. So here's the namer function, and you can see it returns a formatted name. So instead of you needing to type in that field, no, sorry. Instead of you needing to type in, okay, the first name field plus the middle initial plus the last name, and maybe you use the suffix, maybe you use salutation too. You can use the function. There it goes. To do that for you. So all functions start with the name, in this case, namer, and then they're going to have parentheses. And then inside the parentheses, you're going to put the bare minimum, the required parameters. In this case, we have to give it the ID field. And then you give it, for optional parameters, you're going to give it the value of what you want your field to be. I mean, how you want your name formatted. In the case of what I did, I set it to 3. And 3 only returns first and last. And you can see some of these others. If you set it to 0, or yeah, 0, it'll do first, middle initial, last suffix. I can actually turn it around with 2 and have last name first, and then middle initial suffix. And so it'll give you some examples. If I don't put an optional parameter in there and just put name or NMID, then it's going to return the salutation first, middle initial with period, last, comma, suffix. If I put the second parameter in 8, which returns the same thing, but it returns it because I used the third parameter without punctuation, it doesn't put in that period and it doesn't put in the comma. Oh, it does put in the comma, just not the period. Sorry about that. Stuff. It'll also give you some related functions. There might be something else you want to do, and you could look at the namer function, the related functions to see if they'll do something different that you want. In this case, we're going to look, I'm going to say, what's tnamer do? I can click it, and you can see that one returns a formatted instructor name. So when I view this, you can see how it returned my names. I'm going to go and I'm going to change that, and I'm going to put, I think it was 0 in there. Try 0. And that returned, I don't think I have any people with suffixes in there, but you can see now it returned, um, Romney has a middle name, so it returns his. If I did, I think it was 2. Now it turns it around where it returns the last name, and then the comma, and the first name, and the middle initial and things. So those are options that you can do. So that's one option for um, report expressions. There are other ones that you can do. For instance, this is one called show phone. So in the database, the phone numbers are just stored with their numeric values. Ours is 800-925-2493. So that would be, if you looked at the native database value, that would be all that was there. But most of the time, humans like to see it in a foreign format or traditional phone format, which would be the area code in parentheses, and then I can't think of what they call it, the next part, the next 3 numbers, and then a hyphen, and then the last 4 exchange numbers. And so you can use show phone to format that phone properly. And so, of course, you have to put in the required parameter, which in this case is the name of the phone field. And then it has 2 optional parameters. One is for ACEware only, which we won't talk about today, but the character return value. You could have a little label in front of it if you want that tells it what kind of phone number it is: home, work, fax, cell, day, whichever one you wanted. So that's what we've done here. We've used that phone. Now, when we look at the report, you can see that it's actually formatted as phone numbers. Now, if I took that out, you see, then it just returns the numbers. Back in there. This one uses yet another formatting function. Sometimes in databases, it wants to pad your field to the length of however the maximum length is. I think it's 17 characters for city. And so I am using trim to tell it to, okay, if there are extra spaces at the end, just remove them. So that when I do it, you can see it prints the name of the city, no space, a comma, and then the state. Now I can take that out. And you can see city's one of those that it likes to pad it to the end. And without the trim, then I have all those extra spaces, which I don't want. Now, the other thing that we have in this one is I want it to show city and state. So I really want it to show the city, a comma, a space, and then the state value. So I've built an expression using the plus signs to say, okay, city, and I want to trim my city, plus And then because the comma in the space is text values, I have to put them in quotes. So I have my open quote, my comma, my space, my close quote, and then another plus, and then my state field so that it builds that expression for me. Apparently, Willard doesn't have a city and state in his record. So we can use functions, some functions for, I'm sorry, let me allow these two people in. There we go. We can we can use some functions for formatting things. Another way we do it is, I'm going to add one so you can see this one. A nice state function. Oops. Now, in the database, dates are stored in month slash day slash year. But you may not want it to show that way on your report. I'm going to turn this red so it's easy to see. There we go. You may want that in um, text rather than that date. And so the nice date function will take your date and change it from that, the month slash day slash year. I could put 2 in here. I have to stretch oh, there we go. So now you see, instead of just the begin date, now it's February 4th through the 5th because that's when this one meets. If it were, say it spanned a month or 2 months or even a year, it will expand that to say February 4th through March 5th or, December through January, and it'll pull out the full dates for you. So there are formatting functions that you can use. There are other types of functions. Now this one's called find inst. So let's go look that one up. Find inst. It returns information about the instructors that are teaching your courses. And so it will return multiple if you have multiple teachers assigned. And so we're using it because in the name roster, that data is just not natively in the cursor. The cursor is a temporary table that gets created when you do a report. It'll copy all the fields that you requested from the data that you asked for. In my case, I asked for all my courses that began with 25S ACE. But it won't, because every extra field you add to a report slows it down. So it'll put basic data, but it won't put just every single possible field that has to do with the name, course, and the registrations. So sometimes you use a function like this to pull data in because you want to see, in this case, the instructors. And so again, I have my required parameter, which is that course code. And then I have some optional parameters depending on what I want to do. Now it'll have a default. Anytime that you have optional parameters, it always has a default what it'll return. In my case, I'm just using the default. And so it's just returning first and last name. You can see Catherine Corey is what it is. Excuse me. If I wanted to see some of those optional parameters, I'd go back and look. Well, maybe I want to show phones, or maybe I want it to be in the opposite, last name, first name. Maybe I need to see the name and address. I have all of those options. This one is illogical. If I returns the phone, evening phone, F will return a blank. Or I can use an extra parameter to do a custom return string. Maybe I want to see last name, first name, and the city they're from. If there are more than one instructor on the course, this is the delimiter that place between the instructors. Um, that is a line break, and a line break or carriage return is the standard that it'll put. But if you didn't want that and you wanted a tab or you wanted just a comment, a space, you could have it do that and stuff. And then here, down here, you'll get those examples when you're using the optional parameters that will show you what it returns. And then, of course, you have your related functions as well. Maybe you need different data that FindInst isn't giving you. So maybe you want to try out class teach instead. So we have those kinds of functions. Those are called, we call them finding functions or adding functions and things like that. Another function that down here in the bottom, this is called the date function. This just returns the current date as listed on your computer. And so at the bottom of my report, you can see I have the date down there. And some people don't put it at the bottom. Some people put it up at the top and stuff. Does anybody have any questions so far? Marissa, go ahead, and I've got you set up to talk. So, oh,
Great, thank you. Um, so uh, a format for rosters, is that available in like the quick report one?
this one is, yes.
Okay,
Uh,
so
I
if I
went through the, I'm not gonna save anything I did. I went through the remaining reports to get to this roster. But if you're on a quick report and you just want to do it now, when you do quick reports, remember from last time, it's only for whatever course I pull up. So I'm only going to get a roster for this particular course. But yes, it's right there, name roster.
right, so I usually use this where it send each to instructor, and that's the format of the report that I would typically send a roster for. And
Email
I'm wondering,
roster.
mhm,
Is that what you said? You do the email roster?
exactly.
Now that is a little different because you're emailing things, you can pick what you want to send to them.
Can I add anything to this selection of fields, or is it just
Not at,
those?
yeah, not at the present time. If you wanted, it doesn't mean that we couldn't do it, but that would take a wish list, Marissa.
Okay.
If
Um,
you send, who's your tech?
Lindsay?
So send Lindsay an email telling her what you'd like to have on the it roster so
Okay.
she can put it on the wish list for the developer.
Okay. As
And
as like a workaround, just to make this simple. So when you're sending these rosters through the reporting function, if I wanted to just send one to an instructor, can it be like what's the output for it? I don't think we got to that part, but is
well,
it a
now
file?
emailing is different than the reporting. So if I continue with this, I'm not going to pick cell phone because I don't think I have any cell phones. Yeah, it's just no, I don't care about waitlisted. So when you do that, I mean, I picked the HTML version, so it, was the prettified version. Um, so you'll see the HTML in the email and stuff, but it's just this particular is listing the people that's in it in a bulleted list, and it's just showing there's his name, there's the day phone. He doesn't have an email. A lot of my people don't have emails in them because it's just my
Testing.
test. Want to
Yeah.
accidentally send an email. I mean, Beth has an email, so there's her email and stuff, and that's how it will send. But because you're doing email, it's not going to be a pretty, it's not going to look like a print.
Sure, but if I created the report and saved it as a PDF in attachments and attached it instead
Yes.
of, I could send out it as a format. What I'm really looking to do is like some of our classes, people sign up for more than one person, like more than one seat in that class. And here's the just the use case. So I end up going into student lists, seeing like how many people that person registered for, and then like kind of into the email instruction, like as a note, like I hand type in two spots, three spots, whatever, for each person. So I'm trying to find a way to use the reports to just generate that all in one spot, put it as a file, attach
Yeah,
that attachment.
that is a good example for us. So let's do that.
Okay.
So I'm in my report and I want to add a field. And so the first thing I have to do is kind of make room for the field. So I'm going to shorten these. You remember how I'm doing this? Is I click on it, I hold my shift key down, and then I'm using my left arrow to shorten it a little.
Okay.
And then I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to pick those next two. I'm going to unpick that one and then I'm going to move them over to the left.
Okay.
And so I have a little bit of room there for my seat, for my field. And then I can click my expression box and I'm going to draw a little box down there. And now I've got to type in the name of that field. And you can go out and look for this. I'm not going to do that this time because I know what the field name is. It's called RGNMNum. And now I have that showing, and you could label that, Marissa, if you wanted to say number of seats or whatever you want to name it at the top so people knew what that number was.
Yeah, give it a header.
Yeah, like a little header. I mean, I don't think these you need explanatory, but they might want to know what that number of seats is.
Yeah.
Um, and you could do that and stuff. The one thing now, if I had got here and I had previewed this is another function. I had previewed this and I get this message that says variable rgnum not found because it's not in that native cursor. And we'll just look at that native cursor real fast. Here's all the fields it pulled in. Or you can go up here. It's this one right here, data environment. If you get this, just click ignore. I always stretch this down. Here's all the field lists, and these are all the fields that are in here. And you don't see your field in there, that's when you can use another function. So let's go out and look at, these are add functions. And most of them will start with add. I want to find the one that lets me put add reg because I wanted registration field, returns the specified field from the registered table. And so it'll give me the required parameters. Now notice this one has two required parameters because I have to give it the course number and then and the name ID, and they have to have a plus sign between them. So like this. And then the second required field is in quotes. I have to tell it what field I want to. And I often cheat, just so you guys know. I'll often come here and copy this.
I'm gonna edit it. Yeah.
So I don't have to type it. So I could have done this. So I could have copied that in there, and then you just come in there to the, and instead of RG status, I want RG known.
But that's only if we get the error message that it's
And
not in
that
the
would only
cursor.
be if you get that message that says, hey, this variable isn't in there. It just means it's not in that temporary cursor, but you could use an add function to get the data that you want.
Okay.
And so there's another option for functions. So I think that's pretty much all the functions in this one. I'm going to switch over to a different report area. Let's see if while we've got this up. Yeah, we'll try certificates for a minute. We have oh, sorry, I had name roster still checked. There we go. So here, this is an example where I am building a text message, and I'm also including data. And in this case, I want to say has successfully completed, and then it'll be the number of hours and then the hour course. And so because I'm bringing in data and just basic text, I'm going to use that plus sign thing again to it's a concatenator. And so in quotes, I have to put the text. So I've got in text has successfully completed the space, close my quote, open my plus sign. Sorry, I was looking right at that and then couldn't think of the name of it. And then I've got my data. Now, hours is a numeric field. And if I tried to just put hours in here, I'm going to get that because I can't mix numeric and text in the same expression. So what I have to do, and I took that out, I'm going to use a different function. I have to transform it into text. Now you can see I've got it successfully come up because it took that 16 value and turned it into a text value so that I could marry it together with my regular text. So that's another option that you can use where you would be using functions. Another example is this cert date function. That is another formatting one for dates. And you can see here, instead of returning February 5, 2025, it makes this sentence on this the 5th day of February 2025. And so it's just another date formatting function that will return that date value in a different format. That stuff. What time? Oh, we've got a few more minutes. Okay, so that's some of the basics. I don't want to save that. In help, if you come up, functions by category, we have them kind of sorted. So you know you need to add something. You can look through the add fields and they'll give you the basics of what they're going to return. We have formatting functions. If you click on it over here on the left side, it'll take you down that so you don't have to scroll. Here's some of those cert date, excuse me, namer, nice date that we already looked at some of these. I've got some financial aid. There's some fees ones. Some of the, let's go down to registrations. I think we'll do some of the registrations. There's that ad reg we used if we didn't have a registration field. Here's some of the things. Some of these are really complicated, like grab reg, grad cred. You only use those in specific situations, so you might want your tech to help you write something up like that. Common ones that you'll see for registrations is the due and paid, which just returns whatever's due for the registration, whatever's paid for the registration. GTBAL will return if there's a balance due. So you'll see those frequently in reports that do anything with accounting, or some of the name rosters will have it in there if you wanted to show, you know, how much people paid and everything for them. We have a couple of email ones that'll set up email stuff for you. Exporting. We do have some exporting things. You always want it to export a certain amount of fields. You always export name, course, due and paid. And so you can use the copy to XLS function, and you put the fields that you want to export. And when you close the print preview, then it'll pull up that export, and you just tell it where to put the file and give it a name, and it'll pick those fields for you, and you don't have to pick the fields every single time. And so we have functions for exporting. We have what are some special functions, special use ones. The one that you might see a lot of is just do it. I'm going to I'm going to get out of here. A just do it is a special function that basically says ignore the regular rules and do this instead. So I'm going to run this for all my spring semester courses. And I am going to run a function called, or a report called, just do deadbeats. This is Chuck wording. We can't get rid of any of the Chuckisms because we miss him. Now this has a just do it in it. Sorry, I gotta look at it. There it goes. This particular report area, I'm in the deadbeat area, has due and paid already in the cursor for me, so I don't have to do anything special to get it. But I have a where statement that says where due minus paid is greater than 0. So it will do an extra select statement on my query was 25S, but it's going to look through all those 25S registrations, and it's going to throw out of there anybody that doesn't owe me money. And so in this particular one, we're doing a where statement to change the cursor. And if I look at this report, you can see everybody in here owes me something. Other reasons for just do it's is you need to export. For example, Marissa had that RG field that she wanted to export, but it's not natively in the report area she's in, and she wants to export it. So we might use this to put in that add reg RG as, and we're going to have to give it the column a name. And then so it's in the export file for her when she goes to export. So that's another option. The third option, that the common one that we see, is you want to sort it differently. By default, this particular report I'm in will sort it by name and then the course number. But maybe I want it the other way around. Maybe I want to sort it by course and then the people in that course that owe me money. And I can change so you would do where due, and then you would put like order by, something like that in there. So that you would change, oh, I got that I in there. I didn't need to do that. You would change the order of the report. So those are the three most common. It's got some kind of where statement. It's got an order by that's resorting it somehow, or it's got an add something because you want to add a field for export purposes and things. And so we have and you can get pretty complicated. I mean, I won't show you now, but we have some very complicated just do it's out there to get you what you need in your reports. Those kinds of things you'll probably be asking your tech to help you with, and we're happy to help you with those things. The one thing to remember about just do it's, they always run before you get either the modify screen or the report preview. So if you're in the modify screen and you realize, wait a minute, I didn't want to sort it that way. I forgot to add something. Maybe I meant to sort it by course and then firm and then person. You change it in the order by in the just do it, but because it's already ran, it won't rerun again just because you saved it. I mean, you changed it. You have to actually save the report and then rerun it so that it'll rerun that Just Do It with the change. So that's the one thing to remember about Just Do It. On the other side, the just afters, if you put a just after, say, like you're going to export data and you're going to use that copy to XLS to export your data, they will run after you close the print preview. And so you'll close it. If it's something that is going to bring up, in the case of the copy to XLS, where it brings up the save as, little save as screen, because you have to give it a name and you have to tell it the location you want to save your file to. It'll bring that up afterward. Um, we'd also have some stamp functions. I mean, we don't use these very often, but we do have these stamp data. We're going to actually do this for someone else here pretty soon. They want to stamp a value in a course UDF for specific courses in her system. So we're going to do a report to do that. So we do have some of those stamping datas that will run. Again, you put them in a just after, they will run, excuse me, after you close print preview, it'll come up with little messages. Are you sure you want to do this? So that, you have to actually confirm to make sure you know what you're doing. And things like that. So we do have some of those we put in just afters. But there's a whole list. You can also search for these. I'm a table of contents person, so I tend to go to the table of contents, but you can search for these. You could do add reg, and it'll bring you right to that one. But if you don't know the name of the function that you want to use, I always go to this report functions and then go to functions by category. The other thing that I think I've already showed you, but I want to just make sure you remember, if you don't know the field name. So Marissa wanted to add that RG but she doesn't know what it's called. So you can pull up the screen layout, and I went to Student Manager drop down, screen layout, and then I picked the registration. And then I can hover over the field, and you can see it'll tell me what the field name is. If I prefer something in a more of a list, I can go back to that menu and instead pick the reporting data structures. And then I get a list of the tables, and I could come down here to register. And it'll sort them by the name of the field that you see on the screen for anything but those ones that you can, of course, custom name. And those aren't, they're just in here as like miscellaneous because, we don't know what you're calling it and stuff. But I could come down here to find, let's see. Actually, I'm not sure what that field is. Oh, number of seats. There it is. I just was missing it. Number of seats, and then you can find and you can tell what it is. And it'll give you a little bit more data because it'll tell you it's numeric and how long or how many characters or, well, digits you can put in the field. And if it has any decimal places on the numeric one. And so, any questions? We've got about 5-10 minutes left. We answered Marissa's. Does anybody else have questions they'd like to ask?
Not seeing any questions.
Yeah, you guys all can talk. I set you up oh, well, I didn't get Sarah then there to talk. Um, Everybody can talk and they don't have to raise your hand or anything, so. Well, this concludes this reporting overview. While I've got you on the line, would anybody be interested in a full report training? Where we do actually, we're going to do usually 8 to 12 hours of actual report writing where you actually, I mean, we delve into things and things more than we're just doing in this overview. We are looking for fall training set up that we haven't set up yet. But if anybody's interested in that, if you would email Susan or I, if we get enough people to do it, we can do a fall training for report writing. And just let
Would
us
that
know.
would that be in the report wizard?
That would not be, this would be in those in the same
Mm,
um,
yeah,
system we're working in now. What,
gotcha.
Marissa, what school are you from?
Mount Airy Learning Tree.
Mount Airy. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it would not be, it would be in the
gotcha.
um regular reporting system because we most people are using that. So when we do that report training, we do it. Now, there isn't any reason why we couldn't do a more of a custom report wizard training.
Yeah, I come from like more of a SQL background, so I find it easier just to think through it in Report Wizard than using all of the pre-formatted ones. Um,
So I'll put that down, Marissa, as an option,
okay,
possible option for this for the fall. We're
great.
just looking for, we haven't set up fall training yet, so we're looking for fall training ideas, um,
Wish list me, please.
possibilities. What was that?
Yeah, wish list that for me, please.
Okay, I'll put it on there for you. Anybody else?
I think Tara and I would both be interested in customizing reports.
So more of a report training, regular report training too?
Well, the no, what you're talking about, the 8 to 12 hours training.
Okay, that would be great. I may just, Susan and I'll get together and talk about when we could possibly set it up. We had to change the new user training this year because we just had so many people that wanted to come, but they couldn't do it in April, so we moved it to June. So we'll look for the fall training on when we think a good time is that everybody could possibly do the fall training on report writing and see what we can fit in for the report wizard too, Marissa. Stuff. Okay, any other questions then? All right, well then, thank you for attending and we'll talk with all of you again.